After already making cuts of £40 million, Essex Police is facing having to make over £60 million worth of cuts by 2020, thanks to the government. The dramatic reduction in the number of police officers and PCSOs on our streets is a big issue for our residents and has worrying implications for community safety. The Council resolves to write to the two MPs for Thurrock to set out our concerns about the detrimental impact of police cuts on Thurrock residents and community safety, and ask them to lobby for better funding for Essex Police. Go ahead, Steve, yeah? Okay, so between 2011 and 2015, this government slashed Essex Police's budget by £40 million. As a direct result, we've lost over 400 police officers in Essex and 21 police stations have been closed. The mounted unit has been axed. The firearms, road policing and dog units have all been hit by significant reductions. We've seen poorer response times and a fall in victim satisfaction. Last month, Essex Police announced they could no longer tackle 97% of antisocial behaviour calls. And now the next wave of cuts is here. Essex Police faces a cut of £63 million. For us in Thurrock, this means we will have just 6 PCSOs, down from 38, and we will lose 2 of our 3 remaining police stations. There will be a greatly reduced police presence on our streets as a result. And the future looks even worse, with the Chief Constable suggesting that Essex Police could lose a further 500 officers by 2020. Police officers by 2020. What will that mean for residents of Thurrock and the safety of our streets? It is time to tell government enough is enough. Cuts have consequences.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that second? Does any other member wish to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Madam. I do oppose the motion because I feel that if you want to offset cuts, you need to offer alternative ideas about where the money would come from, although that's not me saying that I agree in entirety with all of the cuts made by the Police and Crime Commissioner. I'm big enough to say where I respectfully disagree with the decision of a member of my own party, and there are certain decisions that I don't agree with. For example, if I just confine my comments to Corringham, I think it was an excellent thing to relocate the Council Youth Defending Service in the building, dramatically decreased the police's running costs, which is one of their big bugbears, maintenance costs. It cements links between the youth defending team and the police, which is vital. For example, we've had a further 13% drop in youth reoffending over the last couple of years. And it brings a building that otherwise would have just been closed and used as a derelict back into use in the wider crime prevention family. I think that is a more positive way forward than simply to table a motion so you're not happy with something. You have to offer alternative ideas. However, what I would say is that the Police and Crime Panel is the official forum for Essex councillors to hold the Police and Crime Commissioner and Essex Police to account. The Cabinet gets to appoint a member to this extremely important panel. Our representative is a vital role to make sure that we can lobby for Thurrock and make sure that Thurrock gets a fair go. So I would say to have a look at the last year, the pertinent year, the year leading up to this announcement being made. The meetings of the Police and Crime Panel. October 2014, no member of the Cabinet attended, no substitute was sent. It's a shame because in these minutes, Southend police stations were mentioned because their representative was there to lobby for it. November 2014, no member of the Cabinet attended, no substitute was sent. Shame because the Police and Crime Plan was mentioned. Again, Thurrock didn't come up. May 2015, no one attended, no substitute was sent. Very shameful because they mentioned the estate plan that your motion is the subject of this evening. Now, two meetings that former Councillor Smith did deign to attend, January and June 2014, but there's no evidence he ever actually said anything in these meetings, which is a great shame considering one of them, again, mentioned police estates. No mention of Thurrock in these meetings whatsoever. I think that correct representation isn't just tabling a motion, it is doing the hard yards. I've had the Police and Crime Commissioner in Corringham Recently we had the Police and Crime Commissioner in this council for a private meeting with members. I've written multiple letters to the police force and to the Police and Crime Commissioner. I recently reached across party lines, and myself and Councillor Jones formally responded to the consultation and explained the case for Corringham. That is what representation is, not just emotion.
It's a criminal charter what's happening at the moment. The way the police force is being ruined by the Conservative government, it's shameful.
Hear, hear.
And what you've got is, you've got all your important places, your important buildings, your people want to use the streets in safety, and you can't do that without an effective police force. People are in fear if they don't feel they're being properly protected, and they're paying for that protection, and they're not getting it. So I do know that in the past we've had MPs that have been special constables, I know for a fact. All I can say is for these Conservative cuts to work in the future, perhaps all you Tories will consider becoming special constables and make it work. Thank you, Madam.
Shame that we have to talk about this motion. I mean, we've now got the government and the police saying you can report crime online. There is a question about that. How many people have computers? We now are only going to have one police station open between 9 and 5 after April of next year. And I can only repeat, when I was on the police authority, we had 3,600 police officers. By the time the Tories are finished, we'll have 2,300. We're being told, and I agree with Councillor Cherry, we are being told that, you know, the Chief Constable was saying, well, you know, we can't respond to antisocial behaviour. We can't respond to this, we won't be able to do this, we won't be able to attend burglaries. You know, the whole society is falling apart, and it's you, the Tories, you are taking our police force away. You know, you've even had, you know, the Commissioner, I should say the top man of the police in Metropolitan Police, £1 billion worth of cuts. He's saying London won't be safe. If London's not safe, Essex is not safe, Kent is not safe, God only knows. And I think Councillor Cherry's right. It is a criminal's charter. We're telling people, oh, you know, we've got to make cuts. There are alternatives. If only the Chancellor and Cameron would listen. If we had to raise taxes to make sure we have a police force, if we asked the residents of Thurrock, I'm sure they would only be too willing to pay for extra police officers, to actually put them on our beats, to make us feel safer. You know, in Chapel St Mary, we've had burglaries in the middle of the day. They're just walking into people's homes. It's a direct result of your cuts. You are cutting the fabric of our society. And you know, you're really showing yourself what you are now. You are the nasty party. And I'm ashamed to say that, but that is the truth.
First of all, pick up something that Councillor Halden said in terms of meetings that were held over the last few years. Now, as much as I admire Councillor Smith's persuasive skills, I don't think £60 million worth of police cuts wouldn't have happened if he had turned up to a few more meetings. Because the truth is that these are government cuts. The police don't want to make these cuts. It's not something that they want to see brought about. The government has reduced their funding by a huge amount and will reduce it further. And Madam Mayor, what really infuriates me about these cuts is the hypocrisy of the government position. They say that they are the champions of security in the UK, but the lives of Thurrock residents are becoming less secure because of these government cuts. We're less secure from crime. 97% of antisocial behaviour will be ignored in the future. The massive police cuts of £60 million by 2020, an open declaration to criminals that Thurrock residents are fair game. We have less health security, cuts to the NHS services, the closure of the Grays Walk-in Centre being the most visible, but there have been very many more. We also have the huge threat posed to the financial security of Thurrock residents by the proposed tax credit changes, with thousands in danger of being made much poorer, despite working hard and doing the right thing. So, Madam Mayor, in every walk of life, including crime, health and wealth, we are losing security in Thurrock under this government. And so we must take this opportunity to object to these cuts. I don't think anyone can genuinely believe that PCSO's cut from 38 to 6 will not have an impact, nor that the back office alone can shoulder the funding reductions. Efficiencies, yes, Madam Mayor, but this is obliteration. If we are to be secure, we must fund the police to allow them to do the job that they're here for. We've talked this evening about quad bikes, and in the past about cruisers, HGVs, the antisocial behaviour that plagues the borough, not to mention the serious crime that the police deal with day in, day out. So let's send the message, Madam Mayor, that we're serious about that service, that we believe that Thurrock residents should have that security, and let's support this motion. Thank you.
Facts and facts. Fact 1, government funding has been reduced. Fact 2, reductions in public spending are necessary for us to live within our means. But fact 3, the reason why UK PLC needs to repay a huge deficit. A deficit that the last Labour government created by spending £6 for every £4 it received. The Labour fix-all policy of throwing money at it simply doesn't work. I stood up as a new councillor back in July 2007 talking about the very same thing, and I wrote a letter to the then Chancellor, who I think was Mr Brown, along the same lines when Essex Police were looking to consider reducing the opening hours of South Ockenden Police Station, asking them for more funding. The reply I received, the government believed the current funding for Essex Police to be sufficient, which is what I would expect the elected government today to reply. Councillor, what does this motion actually achieve? Would you not be better placed to follow the correct process and call in here in front of us, the PCC, and question if the funds that Essex Police do have at their disposal are being spent wisely? After all, as a portfolio holder, you don't need this Chamber's permission to speak to our MPs for support. But what I think you're saying here, and Councillor Rice actually agreed with it, if you want Essex Police to have more money, what you're really asking for is everyone else to pay more tax.
What I've heard this evening, a little bit shocking really, where we're having some of our neighbourhoods removed of policing. I mean, the morale that obviously the police force in Thurrock must be under, and the pressure that they're under at the moment must be quite immense. And, you know, we have got one of the largest ports in Europe being developed. We have coma sites in Thurrock, Thurrock Bridge for example, Lakeside, all terrorist hotspots, and they are terrorist hotspots that are a real threat to our general members of the public. We've heard this evening from a previous motion about wanting the police assistant, where we have... you get used to it, don't worry, Mel. You know, where we have pod bikes being used across public open spaces, we're asking the police for help. We've already been told 95% of antisocial behaviour incidents will not be attended now. And what we're asking is a letter to be sent to the MPs of South Basildon and East Thurrock and the illustrious Thurrock MP to get their heads out of the sand and start representing the people that put them out. That's what we're asking. Because if we don't put ourselves forward on this, they certainly won't. They just bury their heads back in the sand, they've got their vote, and see you later again for another 4.5 years.
Yeah. Just taking us back a couple of years, and when Collingham Police Station was announced that it was going to close, I remember Councillor Hall running a massive campaign that the police station's got to open. He even announced that it was going to open when it weren't never going to open, and we'd been told it wasn't going to open. And it was in the paper saying it was going to open. So, and now he's saying it's all right to actually sell it. You know, it's, you know, you made it quite clear that you're okay. So, going on, I just needed to bring that up in my mind, Councillor Holden, that some of us do have memories and that we will remember what was said. So, so looking at the police statistics, we've been told, and I've been reading this, you know, since I was so angry the day that I found out that these measures were coming into force. We was told that cybercrime's growing, That is the new crime, cybercrime. And that people are at risk of cybercrime, and I agree and I accept that people are, and that is a terrible crime. But they are also still at risk of burglary. They are still at risk of antisocial behaviour. There is still hate crime going out there. There is still everything else, you know, the young people. I came past, I drove over the level crossing in Tilbury yesterday. Last night on my way out, there was about 8 youths one side outside the little supermarket and about 5 or 6 on bikes the other side with the zebra crossing. If I was somebody that could be intimidated to go into there, I probably wouldn't get out of my car. You know, so that if that was an older person that would not want to get out of their car for fear of the intimidation. And in Tilbury, exactly in that place, we've had 2 dispersal orders in the past since I've been the councillor. And it's okay to get a dispersal order, but it don't matter no more because the police are not coming, Madam Mayor. It's no good, there's nobody to move them on. The PCSOs, we are going to have 6 PCSOs. I actually bumped into 2 tonight. Thought it might have been one of those mirages that Councillor Horton talks about, and the bad dreams that you had that actually see a PCSO. I actually see 2 of them. They're actually all on overtime for the next 2 weeks because it's Halloween and it's bonfire night and there's the risk of more crime. But there's 40 of them now. What's there going to be when there's 6 of them next year? We're still going to have Halloween and we're still going to have bonfire night and we're still going to have all of the antisocial behaviour. The eyes and ears are disappearing.
So, is that?
Okay. All right then, okay. But I just need to know, say, Madam Mayor, that in Frinton they're talking already about private security firms. And people need to worry, you know, that private security firms are not the police. We need police because there's crime going on, Madam Mayor. I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's an interesting point that Councillor Howden makes about representation. And who do the Tories represent, and what choices do they make for those people who they do represent? And similarly, he asked, where do we get the money from? And I had one idea, how about not cutting the top rate of tax for millionaires? That might save us maybe £1 million or 2. I mean, I just want to repeat that, a tax rate for millionaires. I just want to say, as someone that has been a victim of crime this year, my house was burgled, it was very, very, very upsetting. I just want you on the opposition to question when you oppose this motion, ask yourselves this: how many people in Thurrock will benefit from that representation of that millionaire tax cut, and how many Thurrock residents will suffer as a result of these cuts?
Hold on a minute. Can it only be me who's read in the last few weeks about shopkeepers being told that they will no longer be the police will no longer visit them if they have shoplifters, but to help if they can take names, addresses and possibly CD video information, which of course, unfortunately, you've got a shop there anyway.
Please, one person speaking.
I'll get better at that. It's just generally speaking that if...
Sorry, I just said calling cards would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
yes, I don't think they would carry business cards.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
That's right. It's just unfortunate when you read about they're not going to turn up to apprehend shoplifters and some situations like that, I think it makes it laughable that the police think they can possibly progress from there. With regards to meetings, unfortunately I'm not a member of UKIP and all these meetings you mentioned in the last years. I would have liked to have been present on them. There was a meeting a couple of days ago, last few days, in these very premises, the Thurrock Community Safety Partnership, which me and a few more people of UKIP were there. And hopefully... And independent, thank you. Well, shall we say, we were here. What no one's mentioned at the moment, but it's been hinted at, push comes to shove, there will be a very serious possibility that law will be taken in their own hands, and that if it cannot be done legally, then it will be done illegally. And that I mean by vigilantes, and unfortunately it's a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hampton. I'd just like to say that it's, we've got another 7 people, so Councillor Snell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 things. One thing which I'm a little bit perturbed at, which seems to be brushed under the carpet, especially by Councillor Gerrish, is that we apparently find it okay that the portfolio holder does not attend meetings with the police. I don't see that we should just brush that under the carpet. Surely in this chamber we should expect that the portfolio holder or a substitute should be at these meetings, because no matter what we all say may or may not have been achieved, we would never know because no one was there. And that's just frankly not good enough. Now, whoever is in charge with the portfolio holder, someone from Thurrock should be at these meetings to make sure Thurrock's voice is heard, and it's frankly a shame that it isn't, and that needs to be remedied. But secondly, I mean, lots of emotive things about various crimes and the situation here and everywhere. I think the Tories appear to have forgotten that the number one aim of any government is to protect its citizens, and it's not doing that with these measures. We talk about the cuts to the police as if it's cuts for any other service. Well, actually it isn't, because the cuts to the police go so deep and the police officers have been reduced so much that crime is only going to increase. That's going to cost us all. It's going to cost us all financially, and it's going to cost us all in emotion, you know, with crime to ourselves, to our families, to our friends, our neighbours. That is a bad thing. The Tories seem to have abrogated their responsibilities as far as the protection side of things goes completely. And, you know, it's frankly not good enough, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
So, Madam Mayor, just a point of clarification, I'm also in Councillor Poltegary's defence. This shameful record doesn't belong to a full portfolio holder, not to myself. So I gave that impression. I do apologise.
I did realise that. Thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This motion is rather contentious, and it obviously upsets people on either side, probably in the centre of this chamber. But I think we must remember, as the previous speaker said, that governments are responsible for protecting the people. But, you know, in this country, it's not the army or a militia, it is the police. But I believe that the police, over the years, have tended to run amok with themselves. I mean, we've had Essex police spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds on communication equipment that is never used. So we've had the crime commissioner, with the backing of the police, and I had a go at them, decided to do a survey which they spent nearly £300,000 asking the public what they thought crime was. I mean, you know, really, we've got to, yes, see more police on the streets, but is it really the government? Is it really the government's fault for turning around and saying, you've got to do better? So it makes it very hard for me. I think, Madam Mayor, I'm going to have to abstain on this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just start by responding to both Councillor Howard and Councillor Snell? They are both, of course, quite right. Not acceptable when portfolio holders aren't attending meetings such as this. Councillor Apothecary is now a representative on there. She will struggle to make the meetings because they're daytime if she works. We therefore have a permanent substitute who will be attending, who will be represented. Can I also just respond to Councillor Johnson? I have a lot of sympathy for Councillor Johnson, actually. I remember in 2007, the main plank of his election campaign was to have Ockenden Police Station reinstated as a full-time police station rather than a part-time police station. Unfortunately, he's up for re-election this year when they're actually closing it. So I have to say his campaign hasn't been a success. I know that in 2007 he wrote to the Chancellor at the time, who said that the police were funded adequately in Essex. I have to point out that since 2010 they've lost £42 million worth of funding and have another £63 million of cuts to come, £104.8 million, probably not adequately funded now. Councillor Johnson suggested that we invited the Police and Crime Commissioner to a council meeting. Actually, we invited the Chief Constable to come. The Chief Constable has declined. He will not come to this chamber to take those questions. And finally, Councillor Johnson says that what we're saying is that people should pay more tax. I have to remind him that it's Councillor Johnson that's going about Ockenden asking people in Ockenden to pay more tax when he's proposing a parish council for Brandon Groves. Madam Mayor, since 2010 we've been saying that the ever-increasing cuts in funding of public services, be that the council, the police, the fire service, the NHS, will affect every one of us. And we can see the effect of these police cuts very, very clearly. One police station left in Thurrock, a huge reduction in PCSOs, selling off those police stations so that we can be certain there will be no reversal in future years. In 2013, we were assured by the Police and Crime Commissioner that there would be no redundancies amongst PCSOs in Thurrock, no redundancies amongst PCSOs in Thurrock, if we stopped our match funding. Yet now we know that 32 of the 38 PCSO jobs in the borough are going. 2 will be in Ockenden police stations, as well as Corringham will be closed and sold, and even those PCSOs paid for way into Lakeside are at risk. We know a few weeks ago we were told that Essex Police would no longer deal with 97% of antisocial behaviour. We now know that they're going even further and tell us they'll be... If it's not something, however, that grabs the headlines, will we get the service that we expect and the service that we deserve? I understand as much as anyone that selling off buildings that you're not using anymore makes sense. But having no presence in Corringham, no presence in Tilbury, no presence in Ockenden, at the same time as having fewer police officers, fewer PCSOs on our streets just sends the wrong message to criminals as well as the community at large. And finally, Madam Mayor, I just want to say that anything that any of us are saying tonight should in no way be seen to be undermining the men and women who serve in our police force. I think we all support them 100%. They're doing a fantastic job. It's just a shame for them that that job will be that little bit harder as the thin blue line is stretched even thinner.
I'd like to mention that it is, well, it's just gone actually 9:16 now. We're 15 minutes, or we're not, we're 14 minutes away from 9:30. My sums are right. So do you wish to suspend? No. Thank you for that. That was like one of those riddles, wasn't it? Councillor Roger Toner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Interesting debate, this one. It's an interesting debate because the wording of the motion itself is not what is harmful. It's the comments and various things that have gone along with it that now makes it a bit more delicate. I used to be a special constable, Madam Mayor, so I have put my own bit of pennyworth involved in that, and I know that group leader, Councillor Rob Bledfield, used to be a special constable also. So we have been involved in that. What we are concerned about is really... Thank you. What we are concerned about is the emotions that are going along with this. We've heard about various almost scaremongering things. Now, of course, if police say they're going to reduce frontline services, then every single resident, 160,000 of us, give or take, will be concerned about that. I'll be concerned about that because I don't want something to happen to me or my neighbourhood and not having a response to it. However, would I, if I've got a reduction in funds coming in, not have to look at my pot, my money, and therefore say, I have to rebalance this? For example, there's a service that goes on where some residents, if they choose to, can pay extra money for the police to come out through their burglary alarm system. Now, how is that going to be affected? We haven't heard about that. Will that mean that more residents will take that up, meaning people are paying more out of their own pocket for this? Is that beginning of different type of protection? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation about this. What is the fact is that there's been an announcement made. I'm concerned about the PCSO that used to attend Chafford 100, that if she has to go, then there might be an issue about that. It's a matter of, I've said it already in the public domain, so it's not, I'm not shying away from that. What I am also concerned about is that around, we're talking about going down memory lane, Madam Mayor. When we were in administration, we used to part fund the PCSO, I think to the tune of about £250 150,000, is it, thereabouts. But when the Labour Party got in, they pulled the plug on that. So where we're talking about, charity begin at home, you decided to withdraw that fund, and where were we at? My time is now up, so I will now say thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Spade?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have my hand up and then down and then up again. I'm going to be as quick as possible, and I'd like to congratulate Councillor Tory, Councillor Horton and Councillor Johnson on their admirable attempts to defend the indefensible. The facts that we talked about, Councillor Johnson talked about the facts that went into debate in this issue earlier on. The facts are here, written down on this piece of paper. That's 38 PCSOs down to 6. That's 1 police station for 160,000 residents. That's 97% of low-level crime won't be investigated. That, in my experience, is the vast majority of crime that I hear about from residents day to day, which just won't even feature on the radar. We heard a couple of things from Councillor Johnson and Councillor Tory about how the police have got to spend the pot of money that they're given. Actually, what this motion is about the pot of money they're being given, which has been savaged over the last 5 years and looks like it's going to be savaged again for the next 5 years. Councillor Johnson, you said, why are we debating this motion? Councillor Potter, we can talk to the MPs whenever she likes. It's a very similar situation to the one we had on motion 2. This is an opportunity for this council, these members, these representatives, the people who live in this borough, to say clearly, with one voice, these cuts are not acceptable, and they will harm the residents of this borough. That's why I'm supporting this motion.
Councillor Kelly?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this motion here this evening. I find the motion itself, clearly it's a motion complaining about police cuts. It doesn't really offer any alternatives to what we, Thurrock, are offering or what we're going to do about the cuts. So, for that reason, I won't be supporting it. Obviously, as a country, we're in sheer volumes of debt. We have huge interest payments on our debt. It's the worst type of payment because obviously we're not getting much for our money, and quite frankly, at the moment, we're living beyond our means. Now, there's been a lot of councillors stand up on that side of the chamber here this evening. Only 2 have really raised an alternative as to what we can do about the situation. A lot of hot air, a lot of complaining, but the first one came from Councillor Victoria Holloway. She offered a solution. It was to raise the top rate of tax. That's a grey area, that's debatable, but that was up for discussion in May when we went to the election, and the Labour Party lost that election. The British people did not want that on the table. And then Councillor Rice also raised an issue that, of course, we could go to the electorate and raise our tax to pay for some of it. Okay, that's something that may come up in future elections, but I don't believe I've ever seen a Labour leaflet say, look, we'll increase your tax and improve this service. So, and as I said, and Councillor Spade just said there, it's about we're trying to defend the indefensible. But what are you going to do about it? How are you going to solve the problem? How are we going to invest in the police? What are we offering here? And the fact of the matter is, it's been hot air. All hot air, complaining, but there's no alternatives whatsoever. There's no what we're going to do about it. And if we can write to the MPs, but what are we telling them? What's on the table? What are we going to do to increase it? What can other parties offer? And the reality situation has been absolutely nothing. As I said, only Holloway and Rice have offered them a solution. And as I said, Labour lost in Thurrock in May. And Councillor Rice, I'll be interested to see if that's on your election literature in May. Thank you.
Councillor Brian Newton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's unusual for me to talk for these things, so I beg a little bit of your indulgence, and it's going to be a little bit of a financial lesson that you already know anyway, but you need to be told because it sometimes doesn't sink in. This country currently is about £1.6 trillion in debt. That's quite a lot of money, that. We have to save money because, fortunately, we're reasonably financially stable at the moment as a country. But we've got low inflation, we've got more employment currently, but the euro is in financial difficulties, and that impacts upon us being able to grow our country the way we hope it to be grown. China's slowing down, the world economy is on a bit of a brink. And if we don't start paying back some of the money that we owe, when we are in a reasonably stable condition and not falling apart, then this country will fall apart in the future. So it's about you learning some lessons over there. You got us into this situation, we're trying to get ourselves out of it.
Yeah. 5 years. Basic facts about country. Go on about 5 years of cuts and what's happened to it, 6 and 5 years of cuts. Let's look at
what's happened to crime. Overall crime is down in Essex by 8%.
No one reports it.
Well, antisocial behaviour last year is down 23%. Now, it's outcome focused we should be. Every office of the public sector can have as much money, always wants more money. You have to cut the cloth and get the outcome. If we get the outcomes, why are we spending more money?
Crisis, what crisis?
I have to say, I am absolutely shocked and aghast that there are people in this room who are defending savage cuts to our police force. I have to say, it's not something, I never thought I'd be in a position having Conservative councillors telling me that it's okay to cut the police. So I'm actually quite shocked by that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and break down some of the nonsense that has come out tonight. Okay, I'm going to start off with Councillor Cockshall, who seems to be suggesting that the police are crying wolf on this one, and doesn't seem to be trusting police officers when they say, no, actually, we're going to have to cut police officers because we haven't got any money. I'd like to also deal with this issue about alternatives. Okay? I'm not running the government. Okay? I don't have a secret stash of money.
You get voted in, that's why.
Quite so, Councillor Lishaw, quite so. Thank you for reminding everybody about that. This was one of the reasons I walked those streets in the run-up to May. This is one of those reasons why I knocked on those doors and why I talked to those people. Okay? I was fighting against this. Was one of my key concerns was what was going to happen to our police service. What were you fighting for? I'm not sure. But let me get back to the point at hand. I do have some things I can suggest. I can suggest reinstating the 50 pence. I can suggest reinstating the 50% tax bracket for millionaires. I can also suggest that MPs shouldn't have taken their pay rise. I can also suggest that we shouldn't be paying China to build a nuclear power plant. I can also suggest that the PCC is a bit of waste of money, and that whole carnival around that is a waste of money. I could also suggest that we stop lining the private prison the pockets of private prison providers, and actually just do it through ourselves. I would like to make a point. I'd like to say thank you to Councillor Haldon for clarifying that I was not the portfolio holder for any of those meetings, and I do think that there should be a representative there. I will be at the Police and Crime Commissioners panel tomorrow afternoon. I've taken a day's annual leave. I will be there, and I will invite him to come and talk to us here, if that is what members would wish. And I will do that tomorrow. So in summing up, to talk a little bit about why we're here, we're not here because the Labour Party spent too much money on doctors, teachers, nurses, police officers, okay?
Interest, China.
That is not why we are here. We are here because of a government that is hell-bent on shrinking the size of the state. This is what happens when you do that. Ordinary people get put at risk. And it's okay for people living in nice little, closes where hardly anyone ever goes. But for some of our residents, that's not the situation. For some of our residents, these things are massively worrying, massively disturbing. And there's no scaremongering about this. Everything I've written down is correct. Everything I've written down came from the Chief Constable and the Conservative PCC. And you can roll your eyes, Councillor Cockshall. You can do that, but it's still fact. Okay? And our residents have a right to be represented in Parliament by MPs who care about what they think and don't slave ship on the government line. And that's what this motion is about. It's about making sure we change that pot of money that the police have available to them so they can protect our streets. Okay? And on the matter of... can I ask for a requisition vote, please?